Welcome to this last edition of draft season in February. I am in the Indianapolis of Maryland, which is Frederick, for those of you that don't know, while Will is actually in Indianapolis for the combine. One of the best parts about doing this for as long as we've been doing it is that I get to see folks who, one, I have genuine love for, blow up and be able to do this. So, Will, I'm super pumped to have you on with me. I'm super glad that you were able to find 20 minutes to come on and we talk some draft stuff while you're in Indy. So, thank you so much for that, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's been a crazy day in Indy. Obviously, the social batteries it's about out till about 4 a.m. and up at 7 this morning. So, Indy is certainly a drinking fest, but met a bunch of good people. Had a bunch of good meetings so far this week. So, yeah, I'm excited. Hop on and talk some ball.
Absolutely. And guys, you need to appreciate Will while you have him now, because when the Baltimore Ravens poach him to be their area scout for down here, that we're not going to have
I'm in.
him
I'm
anymore.
ready.
But Will,
I'm ready to roll.
I mean, we can't dive into draft talk without talking about one Mecole Hardman, who seems to find himself in a bit of a kerfuffle, this time, right? He gives an interview where for those of you that haven't seen it or have been off social media because you're not degenerates like Will and I, who are on social media all the time, Mecole Hardman gives an interview where he essentially says that the Chiefs tampered with him. He was a member of the New York Jets. He also airs out Robert Saleh and, kind of says like, there's losers over there. Like, I don't know what's going on over there. Will, First off, what was your initial reaction when you saw the quotes, when you saw Rich put out the quotes of Mecole's appearance on the radio and just the things that he said about the Jets?
Yeah, look, I wasn't super shocked. I don't think a lot of it caught most people off guard if you've been paying attention. There's a lot of Nate Hackett isn't very well respected. The offense was a mess without Rodgers. It was the defense and a team that was basically everyone's going to go coach the defense, and then Rodgers got the offense, and like that's how they'll roll. I wasn't surprised he was frustrated with his role. I think openly admitting you basically didn't want to play and kind of quit was a little damning and unintentionally maybe. Again, I understand frustration. I understand maybe the Jets not doing a good job. And it's not just the Jets. A lot of teams sign free agents and tell them there's a certain plan. The coaches told me I had a certain plan when we're getting recruited, and then I got on campus and said, "That's not what we're doing with you." That stuff happens. I didn't think he handled himself pretty, gracefully in New York. Again, can't really blame him on some of the stuff. I think in theory, tampering happens all the time. That's not the problem. The problem is saying it and being on video on a very popular podcast and like pretty clearly saying, "Hey, I told the Chiefs to come tamper and trade for me," and then they did. And he might not have been good this year, but he did catch the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. So it's like kind of just a weird look. And I think the Jets are pissed off about it. I heard a bunch of people talk today about it, and we're like, they're not happy, just because it makes them look bad. And I think what's even worse, and in the end of the day, the tampering stuff doesn't matter. If he really was leaking game plans to other teams, that's really bad. And I don't know who his PR team is. I mean, I know who they are, but I don't know them. I would be doing a damage control because he's a free agent. And I don't know what the punishment would be if that's found out for him, the Chiefs, whoever it is. I don't know if there even is one, but that's bad. And that's like not just Sauce Gardner, who needs to stop deleting tweets when he posted, just keep the tweet up. But like Kenny Yeboah, and there's other guys that have hinted at it now. Pretty damning stuff. And the fact that the Eagles lost that game makes it even worse.
Right. Well, and honestly, you make a really good point. I think the tampering thing, I mean, LeBron James has 2 rings in Miami because him and his boys tampered.
Like, they tampered tampering goes egregiously.
On. So tampering goes on, but the notion that you wouldn't go out there to field punts, like, again, you've lost your spot to this undrafted rookie, and now you have a chance to get it back, and you refuse to go back in there. I think that's damning, particularly for a free agent wide receiver. And to your point, the fact that you now have Sauce put his name on it, Morstead, who again I find it to be incredible that the punter's the one
Ethered
that's like,
him.
listen, yeah, that he's like, hey man, that dude's an egotistical maniac. Like, let's talk about that. And then Kenny Yeboah comes out, he's like, why don't we talk about the leaking of the game plan and his lack of work ethic? Right? Like so these are things that if you're considering signing Mecole Hardman, you're gonna have to ask him about it, right? And the Chiefs very clearly just moved on from Marquez Valdez Scantling, right? So a team like them, like you then now have to wonder, like, all right, man, like, were you dogging it at some point during the season? Yes, you caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. You have to wonder the point about Hackett. I think, and we've talked about this before, the Jets very much went into the season. Aaron was going to cover up all the warts. I like you, I thought we were going to get a big FU season from Rodgers. That's what I expected. I was like, listen, folks have written him off. You're talking about, at worst, in my opinion, one of the 5 best throwers of the ball that I've ever seen as an adult watching this game that I love. He's one. If he's out of the top 5, I don't know who you'd put ahead of him, because again, in terms of throwing that football. And I said this when, a couple of years ago, and a lot of Jets fans, which is kind of ironic, a lot of Jets fans gave me flack for it because the Packers did not get him help on offense. They did not. They didn't go out and invest in wide receivers other than Devontae Adams, right? Like they didn't do that. As the O line was aging, yeah, they went and drafted Elton Jenkins, but they allowed Bakhtiari to get old, and with him, the knees got old very quickly, right? And the Packers never really added somebody else. And then you saw them replenish the defense, but that's again very similar to what the Jets are doing. Like, all right, we're going to let Aaron figure out the offense. The defense is solid. So now you have him. I think he was written off. And if Rodgers doesn't get hurt, Mecole probably has a pretty solid year here. Because again, like he was tailor made to play with Aaron Rodgers. He was not tailor made to play with Zach Wilson. Do you think that the concerns about Hackett, do you think that impacts the Jets in the free agency market as they go in to try to rebuild this offensive line and try to add more weapons? Or is it something that Jet fans shouldn't really worry about?
So I don't actually think it impacts free agency. I think it impacts the guys that have been there with him.
Yeah.
I think that I said this a couple of times. Some people yesterday, around the podiums and stuff. I was like, there's so much pressure on Rodgers to be this like savior beyond belief, where last year it all was bad just because he got hurt. And do I think he can make up for a lot of it? 100%. Do I think he's going to be really good? Yep. I just think they're either going to be awesome or suck. And I just I don't see like 9 and 8. Like I don't see them being a backdoor 7 seed. Like I think they're going to be awesome and win the division, or we're going to be like Salah's fired by week 9 and Rodgers needs to retire. Like I think that's, unfortunately, I just feel like it's an extreme. So no, I don't think Hackett's going to impact the free agent. I think it's impacting trying to find basically an offensive assistant to replace him, at least by duties. But I'm more worried about it's week 5. Garrett Wilson's just getting overly frustrated, and it's like, are we really going to have this whole conversation and he's going to just blame it? Like, that's more what I worry about. But I'm just worried more so about them utilizing and signing guys that are going to be durable and healthy and play at like a league average level. Joe Douglas made it seem like it was such an easy, at the press conference today. He was like, yeah, like we're in a great spot with the offensive line. Like we're excited. Like we have 2 guys that are flexible and we have all this money and all this stuff. I was like, dude, 3 starters in one offseason is like kind of hard. But I'm glad they're excited. That's cool. But I don't know what you better do something about it, because otherwise it's false excitement. So no, to answer your question, I'm not worried about Hackett's opinion from the outside. I'm more worried about him from like an internal perspective. Like, does Alan Lazard want to like fucking bench himself by week 6?
Right. Well, and I love that you mentioned the Douglas's press conference. That was going to be the next thing that I get to. He definitely sounded really confident.
Like, we had some great meetings this morning.
Yes.
Kevin Zeitler, we had no idea who Kevin Zeitler was.
And that's why Bob is joining him this weekend, because they're going to close some deals or something, because it seemed like a guy that doesn't understand how much pressure he's under to win this year. And that could be a good thing, right? Like he's even keel or whatever, but I don't know, man, that worries me a little bit, because I'm with you. I think Rodgers is going to be good enough. I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't think he wants his last, the last thing they show in his highlight reel to be him on the ground in MetLife week 1, 9/11, right? I don't think he wants that. And I think the AFC in particular, the way to we talked about this a lot leading up to the Jets getting him. In order to beat Mahomes, you need an alien at quarterback. Well, Rodgers is an alien at quarterback. So at the very least, you have that. But I'm with you, man. I'm curious. The the two that they add in free agency, and then the one in the draft, which we'll get to the draft in a second. But this is also a team still with some holes, right? Like they need a second pass catcher. You're probably going to cut, green haired Uzama, right? Are you going to replace him? There's holes to fill. What have you heard down there in terms of just prospects that Jet fans should keep an eye on? We've talked a lot about the interior on the offensive line. It's strong. This draft class is strong in the interior. What are some names that you're like, listen, Jet fans, start to wrap your head around these guys, right? We've talked about the Talise Magas, but just some guys that the Jet fans should pay attention to.
Yeah, I'll hopefully get more tonight and tomorrow and Friday. Yeah. But I would say the backup quarterback wise, I'll just go by position at least. Just kind of gut feeling on some things, stuff you hear from people, the media, teams, etc. I think they're going to be really in on Brissett and Minshew. I don't know. Minshew to me feels like a guy that thinks he's a starter. Yes. I think there's like Kirk Cousins is going to kind of impact a lot of stuff here. I feel like because if he does walk from Minnesota, sorry, Jets fans, but like Sam Darnold is a bridge year where like they kind of low key blow it up for 1 year, and Sam's the bridge guy with McCown and O'Connell. It's like, do we just kind of go that route, reset ourselves in the cap, and we sign Jefferson and like it's Jefferson, Addison, and whoever we bring in next year's class? Although isn't next year's class not as good, so I don't know if that's I don't know. There were some rumors about Sam and like whatever, but I think those three guys are guys that some teams may view as a bridge guy. So I don't know if Brissett goes back to New England. Does that make sense? And maybe he mentors Shane Daniels, but then he kind of just did that in Washington. And like, I don't know, do you want to be in that same spot? So those guys make sense. Tannehill, you hear his name a bunch with the Jets. It's kind of if he wants to play next year and like is good to go with, like, it makes sense. Running back wise, J.K. Dobbins is a name. You obviously are in the area.
Yep.
We talk about Rodgers guys, and everyone keeps talking about A.J. Dillon. The guy who's been training with Aaron Rodgers and recovering from his Achilles with the same spot is J.K. Dobbins. He'd be a nice buy low guy. I don't know what they'll do in the market. I just don't know what guys are going to get paid because if you look at that free agency list, like 10 of the top 20 guys you'd pick in a Madden franchise are all free agents. So I'd say Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, J.K. Dobbins are names. I feel like one of those guys with Brees and Izzy, you'd probably feel pretty good. Zeke is another guy, but Zeke I don't think signs until like I doubt he would sign right away. The receiver market's going to be, I don't know. They're going to have to get creative here. MVS is, I would say there's like a 70% chance MVS is a Jet. And again, like, I'm not saying to be excited or hate it or whatever. People can feel however they want. As a fourth receiver, MVS is fine. Like, he had a good playoff run and a good team. He's like a gadget guy. He clears stuff out and, open up the middle of the field.
And he's a good locker room guy too. That's the other part too, because that's something to the point that you made about Hackett and the guys in.
Won a lot.
You need guys in here that are like the guys that'll keep everything together when shit starts to get a little wonky. You need those guys, and that's what he did a lot in Kansas City, right? Like as the Chiefs were kind of treading water, he was the only guy that Mahomes could throw to other than Kelsey until Rashee Rice came on towards the end of the season. And then defensively, anybody that because again, we've talked a lot about some scenarios where, do they try to move on from DJ Reed? Is that an option that they go with? You got to add something on the back end, right? You don't have Chuck Clark's not signed, Ashton Davis isn't signed, Jordan Whitehead you could move on from. What are you hearing about how they fortify this defense for a all-in Rodgers Super Bowl run?
Yeah, I think don't be surprised. Defensive tackle's a need. I know you've talked about it. Meeks and Joe and Connor, they've all talked about it. There's a fun picture if anyone wants to see Connor and Tavondre Sweat next to each other. It's quite the image. I don't know what's going to happen with Tavondre. Like, people love him. His on the field play is amazing. Would be a perfect fit next to Quinnen. I don't know if he weighs under 400 pounds yet, so I'd like to see that before.
It's a big boy.
Maybe he's 380. And, I think the heaviest someone was like 368, 370 at the combine, something like that. I'd be shocked if he doesn't break that. But no, I think defensive tackle and safety, I think they'll go lower budget, but it's probably my guess is it's like prediction would be probably it's Chuck Clark Ashton and Tony Adams, and they either draft somebody, maybe they pretend like Bernard Converse is an option,
Yeah.
or maybe they bring back Whitehead. Like I'm all for bringing back Jordan Whitehead. I don't mind. I just don't know what I don't. Does he want to be here? Is the price right? Like I'm not overpaying him, but look, it'd be great if the Jets were in a position that they could be all in and go say, well, we're going to Godfather offer Antoine Winfield. That's just not the case. I mean, they could do it. It just, I don't see him getting. I don't see him getting out of Tampa. Otherwise, defensively, I think linebacker will be light. I think it's like they're just going to keep trying to pluck a guy on day 3 and find find another Quincy, whatever. Corner is the interesting one to me. I would extend Michael Carter this offseason. I know from talking to people around that, like Michael Carter wants to be extended. If I was the Jets, I'd get ahead a year early because they didn't do it with Bryce. And like, I'm not saying they're going to be the same thing. Michael Carter's not. Just like there's other slot guys that need to get paid. So why would you not just 3 for 20 right now? And like this year, he's still playing on the $1 million a year, whatever it is. And like they see him for 4 years and cool. And he's on reasonable money. He's a key piece of your defense.
Yep.
Bryce is obviously the big one. They're not going to tag him. I was weird leverage, not just completely saying we're not tagging him. I don't understand why you did that.
Well, Douglas even said, he's like, we've had really good conversations with his representation. I'm like, you give away all leverage. You give away, you hold no leverage back.
But like, if like I said, I think defense will be depth pieces, and I think they'll draft a defensive tackle maybe at some point. Offense, I think they need at least 2 receivers. They need a running back, a quarterback, and 3 offensive linemen. Offensive lineman wise, I would Runyon, Brewer, Zeitler, Dotson, like those guys. Robert Hunt. I just don't know if they'll play in the Robert Hunt money level sweepstakes. Like maybe they will.
He feels like a guy that gets paid. He feels like a guy that's about to get the bag.
I'd almost rather the Jets go sign 3 guards, all between $6 and $8 million a year, and be like, hey, if 2 of these guys can be good, plus Tittman, AVT, and whoever we draft at 10, probably a decent line. I guess that'd be my plan, I think.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so before I get to your picks at 10, because we're doing who's the guy that now you were just at the Senior Bowl and now now you're at the come. Who's the guy that you think? There's a 2-part question. One, the guy that you think that what you've heard, people are higher on him than a lot of people on social media. And then a guy that you think people are lower on that people on social media are higher on. So just the 2 sides of the same coin. A guy that people are much higher on than you think the folks are letting on, and then a guy that you think people are really lower on than most of us would think.
Oh, that's a good. I'm gonna try to see if I can find a good one here. That's a good question. I'm just trying to think of like the good ones. Like I don't want to. The quarterbacks are the easy. It's like easy way. Like I think the NFL is higher on JJ McCarthy than the media is. Like I don't know. I haven't found a single person I've talked to in this week that's in the media that's like, I love JJ McCarthy, and like everyone's like, he's definitely going top 10. So like I don't really know what to make of that. So I guess he's one, but I feel like Fuaga, like Daniel Jeremiah, is super high on him. I know Connor likes him a lot. I know you guys like him. I don't think everyone views him as like a top 10 player in this draft. I think a lot of people are like, he's a good prospect. So I wouldn't say like, and it's not really maybe as dramatic as an answer, but like he's a guy that just like I feel like JC Latham people are higher on than I would be high on. I'm not sure.
I think you're spot on
guy either.
I think
both those guys are not my favorite tackles I've ever watched.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I think with Fuaga, it's interesting. If we were picking like 17, 18, 19, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Yeah. If we were picking like 19, 20, and it's the same way I feel about Jaden Daniels, though. Like if I was a quarterback needy team and I was picking in the 20s, I'd take Jaden Daniels because I would like to think that like my team is ready. Like if I was the Browns and I could find a way to move off of Deshaun Watson, I think Jaden Daniels would fit really nicely there. The Steelers, I think Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback for the Steelers. I hesitate to take him at 2. Like that, like at 2, I'm like, that's a heavy price. It's similar. It's the same thing with Fuaga. I think Fuaga, if I took him at 16, 18, 20, I'd feel really good about it because I don't think he's ever going to be an all-pro. I think he's going to be a really good. I think he's going to be a good starter. I don't think he's ever going to be an All-Pro though. I think he's a guy that's just going to lock down that side, right? And then you have questions about whether he should play inside, whether he should play outside. And if I'm taking a tackle in the top 10, you are a bookend tackle like that. Like you are a franchise. You're going to protect my franchise quarterback. You are a franchise left tackle, and I don't know if he's that at.
No.
If he's that, if I have questions about where he plays.
Yeah, I the only other guy I'm trying to think of that like I feel like the league is like just thinks Caleb's incredible, and I know that's not
Yep.
really like, but I don't think that like there's no. I don't see this like, ooh, does the league like Jaden or Drake? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think there's any debate there. So I think he's going 1-1, and
Yep.
the only way he doesn't is if Chicago says like we don't really care. But if he's not going to put up a stink, if he's not going to put up a stink, like he's going 1-1. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else that I've like. Yeah, like I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to think of another good example here. I would say Latu is a guy that I'm not like. I think is like a really good rusher. I don't like. I don't know where he could go anywhere from like 8 to like 30, and I wouldn't be shocked either way
Wow.
because like just like the medical right because like the medicals and like he's not a sick athlete, so like does he get like he's gonna be really good, but maybe 30 is extreme. But I just like if for a guy that can maybe go top 10, yeah, you know what I mean. Like I just his tape's awesome. He's really cool, but he medically retired, and we saw Jalen Phillips. We saw Jalen Phillips fall a little bit, where it's like. Right. He's kind of like feels like he's literally just Jalen Phillips, but regardless, those are just some guys.
I think that's a good range for him. I agree with you. All right, so I'm gonna put you on the clock, Will. So the Jets are picking 10th and 72. So we're just gonna do those two picks here. So round one, I'm gonna tell you who went first, who went 1 through 9. So Caleb went 1, Drake May 2. Marvin Harrison Jr. 3 to the Patriots. Malik Neighbors 4. Brock Bowers 5, which I really love that pick in San Diego. This is the highest I've seen this player go, but I like him. Cooper DeJean from Iowa. He went 6 to the Giants in this mock draft. Romo Dunze 7 to the Titans.
Maris doing their thing.
Yes. Joe Alt 9 to the Bears. I love that pick. Him protecting Caleb's blindside is amazing. So at 10, you are on the clock. You are Joe Douglas, and I'll read you who the best available guys are according to PFF, the next 5 that are available. You have Nate Wiggins, Byron Murphy, Olu Fashanu, Terrion Arnold, and Dallas Turner. Who are you taking at 10 if this is how the board breaks?
Edge rusher, baby. Let's go. No. If Olu's on the board, I think you leave round 1, say, not a perfect player, but a guy that freak athlete, really, awesome dude, going to be a really good pass protector in the NFL, and will be like a league average run blocker. You take that all day long. Whether it's with Aaron Rodgers, and by the time you have a rookie quarterback in 2 years, 3 years, whatever, he will be a prime player. So I take Olu in that situation. If that was the situation, Olu was not there, I would look to trade back. But if that's the situation, I'm going Olu at 10.
And then, so let me ask you a question. Then, so if you go Olu at 10, are you? This is because this is the part that Joe Douglas mentioned today that you alluded to earlier, the versatility on the O line. Where are you playing Elijah Vera Tucker? Again,
I'm playing him a right tackle. I think with this free agency class, I think you can add 2 or 3 guards / centers, and then you could go Olu. And is it suck that you kind of have to play AVT in a position where he's not maybe quite as good?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of stinks. But if that means you get really good guard play and then at least league average to the good tackle play from AVT, I think you take that all day long.
Absolutely. That's a great point. All right. So now the Jets are on the clock at 72. I'm gonna tell you who, and this is right up your alley, because for the folks that haven't heard us sing your praises, you were a pretty good pass catcher at the collegiate level, and the next 5 best available are all wide receivers. So we have Devontae Walker from North Carolina, Johnny Wilson from Florida State, Jamari Thrash from Louisville, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, one of my favorite players. Oh, no, and the one defender, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. If this is how the board breaks, these are the 4 wideouts, and you get this linebacker, who I'm really high on. Which way are you leaning? I know I'm feeling you're leaning pass catcher, but which pass catcher are you leaning?
Jeremiah Trotter in person, that dude is a walking muscle. He's a tank. I would say I would lean in this situation. The only other guy that I don't know if was on the board at this point, Jalen Polk's not on the board at this point, is he? He
No,
might have. He
he
probably
went
went.
pick
Okay.
70 to the Giants. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if he was there, he would have been my pick. I don't know. I really like the player.
Yeah.
Malachi Corley would be fun to me, especially if you do add even into the Calvin Ridley and MVS, whatever.
Yeah.
Malachi Corley, his ability to just kind of be a tank and just yak and I don't know, with Rodgers, we've seen in the past, can you get the ball out of his hands quick? Can you get him involved? And can he be a little bit Jaden Reed-ish? I know, very different type of size player, but the way the Packers used him last year, when he started to take off, Jordan Love looked really damn good. So if they end up with Olu and Malachi Corley, the first two picks, you're feeling pretty solid about. I think you're feeling pretty solid about going into round 2 picks in round 4, et cetera. Can you get in together guard, defensive tackle, et cetera? At least I'd feel pretty good about that.
That's all. And I will tell you, spoiler alert, guys. So Joe tomorrow is Meeks and I did a dream off season where Meeks did free agency and I did the draft. And Malachi Corley was who I took at 72. That's who I took because I'm with you, man. With the ball in his hands, he is just he's not as strong as Debo with the ball in his hands, but I think he's a little bit more of a refined route runner than Debo was coming out.
Yeah.
He just knows how to find the zone. He knows how to beat press. And I'm with you. If you go into next season, Olu and AVT as the bookends. Say you sign Cushenberry and Onwenu. Say those are the 2 guys you sign. And you move Titman to guard. That's a really good offensive line. Now you just need guys that are going to take the ball to the house when Rodgers gets it to them. And Malachi Corley is a guy that, opposite Garrett Wilson, you sign MVS, because I'm with you. Anything that doesn't allow Alan Lazard to play, I think I'm all for. Say you get Calvin Ridley, that's a really good wide receiver trio. And that opens it up for Tyler Conklin, who had a really good year last year. And he's been Garrett's been their best pass catcher, but Tyler Conklin's probably been their most consistent because there's some games.
Yeah, as I say, probably the most reliable. Garrett's got some
most reliable. Yeah.
Garrett's got a lot of almost top 10 catches on SportsCenter. I mean, they made the couple of insane ones, but there's been 4 or 5. It's 1 or 2 every week. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it, Jet fans. Will says Olu Fashanu and Malachi Corley. Now, I'll tell you also, Olu is the number 1 player on my board. I love him. I've loved him since the summer. I think that
You've always been an Olu guy.
Yeah, I think he's just a monster. Will, thank you so much for jumping on with me, brother. I appreciate it. Jet fans, will have TOJ Talks Saturday, right? Yes, the next episode.
Yeah, Saturday. Yeah, it'll be Saturday.
Yep. And he's down in Indianapolis. So if you want to see him next to Jeremiah Trotter Jr., we can try to see if we can make that happen. Because Connor looks really tiny next to
Devondre. That was one of the better pictures you will get out of the combine for sure.
That's right. But no, thank you so much for joining me, brother. This is the last episode of draft season in February. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Connor's top 65 dropped last week on Badlands. Keep rocking with us. Stick with us for all this content. And we're going to get you through this draft season, Jet fans. We're going to get you through this. And shout out to the punters. Shout out to Morstead, man. Shout out to Morstead. If anybody wants to put his tweet to the ether beat, I will co-sign that. So please make that happen. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.